The XPLO is the Nenno's new racket, and according to Bull Padel is the most powerful racket in their history. But is that really true? Well, today I'm gonna compare the XPLO with Paquito's Navarro new racket, the Hack 04. Because which one is better? Are they worth 300 euros? Hello players, I'm Palo and I welcome you to a new 4Set. The big news from Bull Padel for 2025 is without a doubt the XPLO, the Nenno's new racket. But if I ask you to describe Martin as a player in just one word, you will probably think of the word defense. And that is because Martin is without a doubt one of the best defenders in the world, in my opinion tied with Chingoto. And traditionally a racket for a player like that will focus on control, a big sweet spot and agility. It will not really prioritize power since that type of player usually doesn't need it. But in padel there are two different ways to choose a racket. You can either match your playing style or complement it. For example, Chingoto's Neuron is all about enhancing his strengths. Maximum control for a 100% control focused player. But the XPLO has a different approach. It is designed to complement the Nenno's game. Because if Martin already defends well, why not help him out in the areas where he struggles more? So with that idea in mind, Bull Padel created the XPLO, and which according to Bull Padel is the most powerful racket they have ever made. The XPLO is sold in a weight range of 365 to 375 grams, but there's a catch. But first, one thing that doesn't need any tricks is subscribing to this channel, because if you subscribe today, you will win your next match 6-0-6-0. Well, the XPLO comes with the ESA core weights with weights around 10 grams. But actually neither Martin nor I like it, so I took it off. And without it, the racket weighs 358 grams. That means 7 grams below the minimum weight specified by the brand. So I understand that the weight range is with the ESA core grip on, that keep that in mind. And even without the ESA core, the balance on the XPLO I tried was 26 centimeters, that in my opinion is pretty low for a power racket, especially a diamond shaped one. If I had left the ESA core on, the balance would be around 25.5 centimeters. So considering the weight and the low balance, these factors don't exactly help make the XPLO the most powerful racket. But later I will show you a power test between the XPLO and the Hack so you can judge for yourselves. Because on the other hand, the XPLO uses 12K carbon and multi-EVA foam with a harder layer on the external and softer on the inside. And there are also two things I didn't like it at all. First, the wrist strap comes out right from the edge of the grip cap. This makes it really noticeable when holding the racket and force you to hold it the same way every time. And then the roughness is 3D, but you almost not feel it. And this becomes a bit of an issue, which I will explain when we're on the court. Because when you look at the hole distribution, you will also notice there are no holes in the center of the racket. With the lack of holes, the smooth texture and the glossy finish, it's tough to get spin on the ball and you feel like the ball slips, especially when it's new. But I will say that the racket has a dry, comfortable feel, remind me a lot of the Neuron. Actually, let's see if you can hear any difference in sound between the XPLO and the Hack. Lastly, both the XPLO and Paquito's Navarro new Hack come with built-in vibration dampeners in 4 of the holes, which also make the racket a bit stiffer. And what is the price for the new XPLO? Actually, it's 280 euros if you use the code 4Set on Padel Market. Now let's check out the features of Paquito's Navarro new racket, the new Hack 04, that is designed to be Bull Padel's fastest racket. Obviously, I also removed the ESA core, and without it, my Hack weighs 364 grams and has a balance of 27 centimeters. The new Hack uses 18K carbon and also multi-EVA foam. The grip is 12 centimeters and it also has a similar 3D roughness to the XPLO. However, since it has a matte finish and more holes throughout the face, you can tell the Hack grips the ball better and is more effective with spin. And you can get the new Hack 04 for 270 euros with the code 4Set at Padel Market. Personally, I like the Hack's new design better since it reminds me of Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin. One bad thing is that the Hack also has the wrist strap placed in the same annoying way as the XPLO, that it's done to allow weight to be added at the handle. And one curious thing about all bull paddle rackets is that the brand itself rates them on power and control. And according to Bull Paddle, both the XPLO and Hack have the same ratings. 100 points for power and 90 for control. The new Vertex also has 100 points for power and 90 for control, while Chingoto's Neuro has 95 and 95. So based on that, you will think that they are equal performance rackets, but you will see they are not. Because now it's time to talk about how the XPLO and the Hack perform on the court. Starting with defense, this one is clear for me. The XPLO is my favorite. Because remember, we are talking about a 358 gram racket with a 26 centimeters balance. Even though it's a diamond shape, I was able to move the XPLO much better than the Hack. Also, the feel is not super stiff, but it's firm enough to give you all the control you need. It is true that with the Hack you feel the ball get more energy because it has a bit more ball output, but the feel with the XPLO is fantastic. But here is the main issue I mentioned earlier, the roughness. Actually, I struggle a lot, especially when trying to add spin with the XPLO. With the glossy finish, the minimal holes and the almost decorative roughness, the balls slip way too much. And for me, this will definitely be one thing to improve next year. Because when you are trying to add spin on shots like this serve, it just doesn't give you the best feel. And as I said before, with the Hack, since it has a matte finish and more holes, you feel the ball better. Another thing that surprised me about the XPLO is the sweet spot. I found it to be bigger than the Hacks, and combining that with how much easier it is to move and the nice feel, for me is a top control racket. And thinking about the Nenno using it, it makes perfect sense. For volleys though, the Hack wins over the XPLO. Even though it's harder to move, I can get more weight on the ball and it responds better at high speeds than the XPLO. Because with the XPLO, I felt like there was a power cap that I couldn't surpass. It is like a car that accelerates fast but is limited to 180 km/h, while the Hack accelerates slower but reaches a higher speed. And for the Bandeja shot, I will say they are tied, because the XPLO wins in one crucial area for me, the quick preparation for the shot. But at the same time, the Hack managed to put more spin and weight on the ball. And the same thing happened as with the volley. If I wanted to hit hard with the XPLO, it felt capped where areas the Hack didn't, even it was harder to prepare. And finally, here comes the ultimate test, the power test. And disclaimer, I filmed this in Madrid with used balls and pretty cold weather, so don't expect smashes flying 50 meters because I'm not Teo. And I will be honest, for me, the power on both rackets is practically the same. But if I have to pick one, it will be the XPLO because it's easier for me to handle. But if you are a more powerful and physical player than I am, I think the Hack will give you better results. I hit over 10 smashes with each racket and all of them had very similar distances, so it's basically a tie. So Pablo, in conclusion, who are these rackets for? Well, if you're a defensive player looking for a racket to complement your game with a lightweight, large sweet spot and firm feel, the XPLO is a great option. And if you're a more offensive player with good strength, prefer a high balance and want a dry feel, the Hack 04 is a solid choice. So Pablo, is the XPLO the most powerful racket in bull paddle history? Well, actually, if the brand says so, we will have to believe them, but in my opinion, it is actually a control-focused racket that can be well balanced in a skilled player's hands. Leave a comment telling me which one would you like to try, and don't forget to subscribe and use the 4Set code in Padel Market. Thank you so much for watching the video, see you in the next one, ciao!